Welcome to the Simplify Your Life podcast. It's Coach Simona, and I'm glad you decided to tune in. Hey everyone! In today's podcast episode, we're going to talk about how to think before you act. And I'm going to share with you 5 tips on how to not be reactive and control your impulses. We'll also dive deeper into my 5-day TAS system that will help you think before you act. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Simona, certified life coach and author of the book 111 Ways to Simplify Your Life. I make weekly podcast episodes on personal development, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to subscribe. Alright, before we get into my 5 practical tips on how to think before you act, I want to address the idea of not being reactive. As someone who is very passionate, I used to be incredibly emotionally unstable in the past, and I can tell you one thing for sure. Thinking before acting was definitely not something that came naturally to me. I got from a 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds, and sometimes said things that I deeply regretted later. So what changed? Well, first I decided that being reactive was not only keeping me stuck in the never-ending loop of letting other people control my emotions, but I also knew that it was going to impact the most important relationships I had in my life. So let's dive deep into my 5 tried and true ways to not be reactive and think before you act. My first tip is to reflect on how acting before thinking negatively impacts your life. To change your behavior, you need to come up with a solid reason for why your current behavior is no longer serving you. Otherwise, history is just going to keep repeating itself. Here are some journaling questions that will help you reflect on that. Question number 1. What does acting impulsively give me? 2. What does it take away from me? 3. Have I said or done things that I regretted later? 4. How will not being reactive help me better my relationships, career, and overall life experiences? 5. Do I pride myself on being impulsive, or is that something that I'm not proud of? Pay attention to the last question. When we pride ourselves on being XYZ, that gives us a sense of identity. The same goes for when we're ashamed of something. Think of it this way. Anytime you associate yourself with something, or you don't want to associate yourself with something, and you say to others, I'm impulsive or I'm a hothead, you're confirming your identity and making this belief even stronger. So I don't want you to start denying it, because that will only make it stronger, since you will be repressing the truth and perpetuating the cycle. What I want you to do instead is stop basing your identity on this particular trait and detach yourself from it. For example, next time you react impulsively, instead of saying, I'm an impulsive person, say to yourself something like, my reaction was impulsive, but I can choose to change and react better in the future. Changing our beliefs starts with changing the way we speak to ourselves in our own heads. So if you want to track your thoughts and become more aware of the reactivity triggers you encounter throughout the day, I've made a free cheat sheet to help you with that. If you want to download it, just click the first link in the description box below or visit bit.ly/thoughtrecordtool. My second tip is to pause and take a deep breath. When you start seeing red, or you feel like your blood's boiling, your heart's racing, and you're about to say or do something that's based on emotion, not reason, I want you to imagine hitting the pause button. You can literally imagine a pause button in front of you. If you're in a heated argument, for example, you can do one of the following things. You can tell the other person that you want to pause the conversation and you're going to discuss it later when you're both feeling calmer. Or you can simply say that you feel triggered and you need some time to reflect on that. But let's say you're not reactive towards someone else, but you got triggered by the circumstances. You're on your own and you're about to binge junk food or do something else that you're going to regret. Again, imagine hitting the pause button and watch the sensations in your body. What's going on? Do you feel tension in some places and maybe even pain? How would you describe this pain? Is it sharp, stabbing, or dull? Do you feel anger, fear, anxiety? How would you describe your emotion? Now, the next thing I want you to do, regardless of whether you're engaging with other people or you're alone, is to take a few deep breaths, preferably 10. We need you to calm down, let the emotion pass through you, and observe it without reacting. I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to be extremely difficult in the beginning. It's going to take you a while to master your emotions and stop being reactive to external things or people. but the more you do it, the easier it will become. So next time you feel that emotion bubbling up inside of you, remember to imagine the pause button. Press it and take a few deep breaths. My next tip is to talk and act slowly. I know, easier said than done. So we'll start with small steps and take it from there. We've already understood the link between your thoughts and beliefs you have about yourself, your emotions, and your quick-to-react behavior. So how can we change your actual behavior? Let's try out my 5-day experiment called TAS, Talk and Act Slowly. On the first day, for an entire day, I want you to be mindful of every time you speak. Do you talk fast? Do you go out of breath trying to explain something? Are you often finding yourself talking more than listening to the other person? Pay attention to your communication style and note what's happening. On day 2, I want you to slow down the tempo when it comes to talking. When you talk to someone, aim to take deep breaths, maybe even pause before responding. And I'm not talking about having a heated argument. I'm talking about day-to-day mundane conversations. Just aim to listen to the other person without taking it personally and talking in a slower, calmer manner. On day 3, we will pay attention to the way you act. For an entire day, I want you to pay attention to your movements, the way you walk, the way you carry yourself, open doors, touch objects, and have ordinary mundane experiences. Are you being aggressive? Maybe always in a rush, or something else? This day is all about observing, not judging. Now, on day 4, I want you to slow down the tempo when it comes to acting. Try to walk in a slower manner, maybe be gentler to yourself. Not slam doors. Take your time when you're drinking that cup of coffee and allow some space between your work tasks. Be mindful, intentional, deliberate when it comes to the things you do. Slow down and pay attention to the way you feel and act as a reflection of that. And here's what you're going to do on day 5. You will combine the slow talking and slow acting. You'll be conscious of every interaction you have with other people and be present with every movement and action. Don't worry if you mess up or not everything goes to plan. Life happens. Don't beat yourself up about it. The important thing is that you're making a conscious effort to be a better communicator and think before you act. So congratulate yourself on that. Now, if you want to find out how to express your emotions in a healthy and constructive way, especially when it comes to romantic relationships, make sure to listen to episode 120 after this one. I will leave a link below. My next tip is to reward yourself for your good behavior. We often hear that punishing yourself for bad behavior is going to help us change. But the truth is that positive reinforcement is way more powerful, and it will help you keep the relationship you have with yourself healthy and compassionate, which in turn will help you have long-term results. Punishment instills fear. Rewards are associated with joy and love. So I recommend choosing love over fear in any area of your life. Here's how you can do that for this particular case on rewarding yourself for thinking before reacting. Next time you have a situation where you really wanted to say something mean or storm out of the room or do something else that could potentially hurt yourself or someone else, but you didn't do it, reward yourself afterwards. Do something that you really enjoy. Now you may be wondering, why should I reward myself and how is this going to help me with impulse control? Well, think of it this way. You're training your brain to associate thinking before acting with something pleasurable. You're reinforcing the positive behavior and making it even more enticing next time you're faced with the decision to act or take a second and reflect on what you're going to do next. Sometimes we're too quick to react because we feel anxious or overwhelmed. So if that's something that you're struggling with, make sure to watch my video on how to deal with anxious thoughts and obsessive thinking. Just visit youtube.com/Coach Simona. My next tip is to focus on what's happening outside of your inner world. When we're being reactive, that means that we're listening to a story that's happening in our own minds. We're not really listening to what the other person is saying. We're not paying attention to their feelings, their true motivation, and maybe we're even interpreting their own words and taking them way more personally than we should. Being mindful of what's happening around you, meaning what you can hear, see, smell, or taste, will bring you back to reality and help you see the situation more objectively. Whether you feel triggered by something someone else said or something that happened around you, you can still choose to stop listening to your inner narrative and look around. If you act without really thinking about the consequences, this will definitely help you center yourself into the present moment. Observe what's happening outside of your head. Put the focus outside of yourself for a minute or two. Then, you will be able to make a more rational decision and ultimately achieve a better outcome. Now, if you're often taking things personally and you get easily triggered by other people, I recommend listening to episode 132 next. I will leave a link below. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss out on my weekly podcast episodes. I'm sending you all my love, and I'll talk to you in the next one.